Joe Biden's approval is simply falling to the floor. This is the USS Biden going down like the Titanic, and it's great to watch. Now, of course, there's a certain type of Republican who's uncomfortable when you say things like this. They say, "Well, he's our president, Dinesh. We've got to try to find common ground." In fact, this has been kind of the mantra of the 19 Republican senators who voted for the infrastructure bill, joined by a bunch of Republicans in the House. We've got to find common ground. We've got to help him succeed. He is the American president. Well, I'm really happy to see this American president take a huge hit in public opinion. And it looks like the criticism of Biden runs deep. It's not just criticism of his personality or that he's inept. It's a fundamental disagreement with the direction in which he's taking the country. Let's look at some of the numbers here. This is the latest poll, by the way, is not from Rasmussen or some conservative leading source. It's ABC News and conducted in conjunction with the Washington Post. And it shows that between the two parties, there is now a 10-point spread. And what that means is that 51% of registered voters say that they would support a Republican on a generic ballot, and 41% say they would go for the Democrat. Now, that's a giant divide. In a country closely divided, typically polls show a 2 to 3 point spread. But this 10-point spread, according to ABC, is the biggest lead the GOP has had in 110 polls of this kind conducted by these two news organizations. It's the biggest lead that Republicans have had in 4 decades. Now, the reason that this is significant, and by the way, it all runs in conjunction with Biden's own popularity, which has dropped to 41%. Now, 41% is a kind of creepy number for Biden because by and large, if you look at the spread of people in this country, there's about 40%, hardcore Democrats. And there's about 40% hardcore Republicans. And the country swings based upon the 20% in the middle. And it looks like, as of now, Biden is winning none or virtually none of those people. He's lost the independents. He's even lost a few Democrats. When you look at the Senate races that are coming up in 2022. There are big Senate races coming up in key states: Arizona, Florida, Georgia, North Carolina, New Hampshire, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin. Now, these are all swingish states. And interestingly, the gap between the two parties is even bigger in these swing states than it is in the rest of the country. In fact, Republicans are up 23 points on a generic ballot in these critical states. So this is this is terrible news for the Democrats. Remember in 2010, just to flash back a decade or so, Republicans were up 6 to 8 points over the Democrats in 2010. This was a kind of, once people really looked at Obama and realized who he was, realized he was not who he said he was, there was a wave of national revulsion that spread across the country, and Republicans won 60 seats in the House and 7 in the Senate. It just swung both houses of Congress into the Republican camp, essentially paralyzed Obama for the rest of his term, and he had a similar whopping in the midterms after his reelection. Now, the important lesson of all this for Republicans is when your enemy is doing so much to essentially commit suicide, let him. Let Biden commit political suicide. These guys are not going to back down. A normal party would say, well, we better trim our sails. We better moderate. Let's forget about this Build Back Better. Let's not waste any more money. No, these guys are not going to do that. Their idea, in fact, is the opposite. Let's quickly get all this done so we can win back our popularity. That's how they think. Well, let him go. Let him push. But block him on everything we can. So don't rescue Biden. That's the message. Don't try to help him. Now, the 3 issues that are the key to Biden's dropping popularity are: number 1, the economy. And here is where the media cannot protect Biden, because when you have inflation, it doesn't just cut into your paycheck. It cuts into all your savings, all the money that you've accumulated in your bank account, in your pension fund, in your savings, in your kids' college fund. All of that is depreciating in value because of what Biden is doing to you. And people know that and they can feel it. Number two, immigration. Essentially, Biden has licensed, he has approved an invasion of America. And he's done it for purely partisan political reasons. And people know it. They're disgusted by it. The Democrats are doing nothing to stop it. They're even ignoring court decisions about it. And so this is another primary cause of the dropping popularity ratings. And finally, schools. Racial indoctrination, critical race theory, all kinds of other nonsense going on. And I think the remedy here is for parents. This is a moment of opportunity for conservative parents to run for school board. Let's take over every school board in the country. You want to know what you can do about critical race theory? Well, take over the school board and start firing superintendents and firing teachers. This, by the way, is not cancel culture. This is you have the authority as a school board to set policies for the school district and decide what are the kinds of people you want carrying out your policies. This is like a corporation in which the board of directors decides we don't like the CEO. They're not canceling him. He's an incompetent fool. Let's get rid of him. Well, we have an incompetent fool who's driving our ship of state. There's not much we can do about him right now. But let's mobilize against him, persuading and drawing the country together as much as we can against these Democrats. And let's watch the USS Biden continue to go slowly down, down, down until it is finally at the bottom of the ocean bed.